All right. What is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here with another GSD Mode podcast interview every single week. We interview top entrepreneurs, top real estate professionals, and straight top badasses out there dominating their space. And today, guys, we got another amazing epic guest here on the podcast. So our podcast today, guys, he got his career or start off with a career in BMX. Then that led into getting into real estate and real estate investing. That then led him into the tech business and the tech side of things, which he built an amazing tech company that he sold for $100 million, which then led him back into real estate, where now today he's leading a real estate charity, helping those in need. So really stoked and honored to have Ross Hamilton on the podcast. Welcome to the podcast, my friend.
Yeah, I couldn't be more excited to be here. I love getting shit done. So
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is
And
that's what makes the world go round.
yeah, and you definitely have, and you continue to do so, man. So let's rewind the clocks, man. So you started off, real passion about BMX. I mean, what happened there, and then what led you from there to get into real estate?
Yeah, well, I couldn't skate. But I had a GT Air and I started riding BMX at a young age, 12, 13, started playing around with it. Moved to Wilmington, North Carolina. A gentleman by the name of Dave Mira, who had video games, X Game gold medalist. Had the most gold medals, moved to my town. So there was a little ragtag group of BMXers. We knew Dave Mira just moved to Wilmington, North Carolina. So we went to see what he was up to. He was building a skate park. I helped him build a skate park. I worked for him. He became my first mentor, my first coach. And I went from just jumping little, cinder blocks with pieces of wood to riding vert ramps and competing with some of the best in the industry because I had a mentor, a coach that was showing me how to do things that I didn't think were possible. So I got into BMX. I even had a BMX clothing company. I had a Volkswagen van. I went all around the country sponsoring kids my age and stuff like that. And then I had one of those just career-ending injuries at a kind of a pivotal age. And part of my career, I was out for over a year. And Dave Mira and the whole scene left Wilmington. And it was kind of college time for me. So I wasn't going to be pro. I was picking the pieces back up, and I was able to find real estate investing, and real estate in general.
Yeah, yeah. So before we do that, though, because that's kind of led to this next life path that you've been on. But so many, man, when we have this dream and this vision, and then all of a sudden it's maybe taken away from something that's out of our control, man, it can crush you, dude. And but you chose to reinvent yourself. So what was it? I mean, what was it like going through that time? And what advice would you have for maybe those that are, going through something similar that have to reinvent? Because I mean, it happens, man, in business. We think we're going down this path, and then we decide that that gets crushed, but then it leads to something else.
Yeah, no, it was definitely a very transitional time for me. I had to start like working a normal job. My first job, I was actually a dumpster diver. So I would drive from dumpster to dumpster and pick out scrap padding, the stuff underneath the carpet.
Yeah.
And I would bring it back to a warehouse and recycle it in a baler that had no safety features. I had to like hold my hand in the baler until it was close and then pull it out. Anyway, and in Wilmington, North Carolina, it was hot, and I kind of had a breaking point to where I just, I had this great trajectory and kind of lost it all. And also all my friends were there as well. How you do anything is how you do everything. And I'm kind of an all or nothing type guy. So if you didn't ride BMX back then, I didn't have anything to talk to you about, really. And so all my friends kind of left, went to college, moved, and I was by myself just diving in and out of dumpsters. And I went to Barnes and Noble because the internet really wasn't what it is today. And I found a book that said most millionaires make their money through real estate. And I decided I'd play the odds. And I just jumped into real estate. And I learned a lot from extreme sports and just sports in general about risk, right? Every time you hit a jump, there's risk associated with that. I learned a lot about failing. And I took all of those lessons into business. I was flipping bikes, then I went to flipping houses. Yeah. And it was, and I went about it the same way, Josh, that I did BMX. I found the best that I could and got them to coach me and mentor me and spent big money on that type of stuff. But it just moved the needle so much quicker. So by the time I was 23, I went from being like completely and totally broke with no money to being 23 and having around 50 rental properties. And I was financially stable through real estate. But yeah, I mean, every house was like doing a trick. And you know, in extreme sports, the people that you ride with are the people you compete with when it's competition time. And that's kind of how it was for real estate. The people that you're networking with, you're also competing with. So I did well in those type of situations, and I love to grow my network within my town and the nation.
Yep. No, I love that, dude. So then, I mean, there's a lot of those that are watching and listening to this podcast that, I think, most real estate professionals that have conversations with that are maybe helping a lot of investor clients go out there and acquire properties, that it's like, man, it's kind of the dream to just go out there and become eventually your own client, but man, it can be scary. And the thought is, oh man, I got to have all this money to get involved. And, so can you kind of walk us through, I mean, you surround yourself with the right people. You started, studying intensely and becoming an expert in this space, but I'm guessing it wasn't like, I'm guessing dumpster diving didn't pay you 500 grand a year where you could go,
No.
So what was that like of, how did you go out there and meet this network? And then what was it like to go out there and start structuring, those first several deals?
Yeah, absolutely. Good question for sure. And through reading, I'm like, maybe I need to get my real estate license. Right. So I took the class. I failed the test the first time. I was not good at the HUD statement, like that type of detail oriented stuff. You can't argue your way through it. I failed it, and I went to a local RIA, and it was Secrets of Real Estate Investing Millionaires. And after the conversation, I went up to the gentleman who was presenting. I'm like, hey, I want to be a real estate investor. Should I get my real estate license? And I'll never forget what he said. He said, do you want to show kitchens or do you want to make money? I'm like, I want to make money. And he's like, well, then don't get your real estate license. And that was both good and that was both good and bad advice in a lot of ways. But I just started working for that guy, Josh. I just started showing up at his office and started seeing kind of what he was doing. And after I'd get out of the dumpster, I would go to his office and ask him if he needed help with anything. And he'd send me away to leave most of the time, until one day one of his guys didn't show up and I put some signs up for him. Then I went to the courthouse and I brought back some foreclosures. So the thing about real estate investing and real estate agents is, to me, it's just crazy to think that a real estate agent isn't at least buying one property a year to build that portfolio up, because your real estate will take care of you in the end, better than anything else that you're going to do. And if you're a real estate agent, real estate. So you have inside information, inside knowledge. You have to operate slightly differently, but I think you're almost negligent if you're not building a real estate portfolio to take care of yourself and your loved ones in the future. There's millions of different ways to do it. But I will just say, what I did is, there wasn't so much information available when I started. Now it's like analysis by paralysis, right? I was so ignorant of all of the things, I didn't slow down getting in. So my philosophy when I first started was, if I can find a good deal, all the other problems will solve themselves. And that turned out to be true. If I was able to find a house that was 40 cents on the dollar, or if someone was willing to do creative seller financing, I could figure out how to make that deal work without my own money, through creative partnerships, seller financing, wholesaling. And every deal was different, which I'm a little scatterbrained at times. I enjoyed that because it wasn't the same thing over and over again. Every deal I got to solve a different problem and figure out how to structure deals where sometimes I'd pay full retail and still wind up making money. So I've also done like triathlons and Ironmans. And when you're doing those things that seem big and overwhelming, when I was running that marathon, I would always just try to get to the next telephone pole. It's like, can I get to that telephone pole? Yes. Can I get to that telephone pole? So real estate, people drink the information like you're drinking out of a fire hose, and then they're like, oh man, that's going to be tough. But it's really not that hard if you can find good deals. So that's really where I focused on.
Yep. Love it, dude. So then, all right. So by 23, you acquired 50 of these. And then I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I read that kind of before the great financial crisis, like you had unloaded a lot of the.
Yeah. Yeah. The timing was really good, but also the way I was structuring my deals with a lot of seller financing, there was really only upside. Worst case scenario, I had to give a house back to someone. And then also I found a unique niche. Like during 2008, 2009, there was a town, Jacksonville, North Carolina, a military town, and everyone there had financing. And they just closed down two other bases and moved everyone to Jacksonville. So the supply and demand was just crazy. There was way more demand than supply. So while everyone else couldn't sell, I couldn't hold on to a property tight enough. So I found a really good market during that weird time, and I was able to continue to grow.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I thought that I read that you unloaded the 50 property portfolio prior to the great financial crisis.
Yes, I did. I sold a lot of properties as well, but it didn't stop me from doing quick flips and wholesaling.
Okay.
Um, because I got two bits of advice. Whenever I first, was climbing out of the dumpster, I found the most successful people I could and said, "Hey, you're 19 or 20 years old. What would you do?" Multiple people gave me the same advice. I'd buy real estate and I'd travel. So this was right when like the 4 hour work week came out. And I was living the 4 hour work week, at or before the time that came out. And I just started to sell off a lot of properties to start cashing in on the equity I had, not knowing there was going to be a crash.
Okay.
But it was a nice way to stack up some cash. And then I moved that money back into real estate in a different way through the software side of real estate.
Okay. Yeah, that was good. That's what I was trying to get to of like, dude, were you one of those that were able to read the market, see what was coming and knew to liquidate before, or if you just got lucky?
No, and in full transparency, I was tired and kind of broke, right? Because I didn't start with any money. So any money I made, I would reinvest it. I had big credit card bills. I was equity rich, but I was cash poor. And I got kind of tired of that. And I just started to sell, and I enjoyed the money coming in.
Yep. Yep. So then, okay. So then that led to you starting your tech company. So what is this, about 2008, 2010?
I would say I launched it in 2007-ish when I
Okay.
like opened it up, bought the domain name in 2005. We built out a site called Connected Investors that was it was a small invitation only website back then, to where the more people I was connected with, the more money I made in real estate. So back then, Facebook wasn't a behemoth like it was. Most people in real estate didn't even use Facebook. MySpace was just for partying and kids. Actually, Facebook, when I started it, you had to be in a college to access it. So I said, "Hey, this is a cool way to connect with people. It'd be great if there was one for real estate investors." So the domain name connectedinvestors.com was available. My cousin knew some guy who could build a website, and the dream was born. And we built that up into several million members that were using it to connect with other real estate investors, agents, each other, private lenders. And there's a little marketplace element of off-market properties, and it caught on as social media caught on.
Yep. Yep. And then, yeah, you had a good solid exit with that company.
Yeah, it wasn't 100 million. It was, around, it was up. I'm in a non-disclosure, but it was enough to, retire several generations of my family and kind of, reinvent myself. It happened a few days right after my 40th birthday.
Yep.
So nice midlife present.
Yep. Oh yeah, man. So what was it like building, because tech, it's a competitive space. It's a different space. It's, there's a lot of challenges, that come amongst that. What was that like? And what were some of the differences and lessons that you had to learn there that maybe you hadn't learned yet with building the real estate portfolio and your other experiences?
Yeah, well, just like I didn't have any real estate investing experience. I didn't have any tech experience when I started. Even at my house, my wife has more tech skills than I do, but I'm good at building teams. I'm good at creating a vision and building culture, and making it fun along the way, even through all of the turbulent days. And there were a ton of pivots in the company, right? Because we had a social network, people were using it, but what am I selling? I had to figure all that stuff out. And there were a lot of lefts and rights and pivots. So it was, when I first started it, I was using the profits from flipping real estate to build out the tech because there was no revenue. And it was easier for me to make money in real estate than it was for me to go beg private lenders to beg, people who invest in tech companies to invest in tech. Real estate's easy to get people to invest in. If you've ever raised money for tech, real estate's the easiest because there's an asset that the money is secured against, right? It's an easy sale, but tech, you're selling the smell, you're selling the sizzle. So it was really challenging. So I just made the money to build the company until it started to pick up and was able to run itself. But really, culture in any team is not just a buzzword. If I've been a part of companies with culture and companies without culture, and I'm telling you, that's where you get that extra 100% from people. A lot of people show up to work just to not get fired. That's a way different vibe than people showing up to work to like change the world, to disrupt an industry, right? There's that magic there that's really important to have a high growth company. And I learned a lot through the selling process, which we can get into as well if you'd like to. And the company we sold to is First American, so that's a title company that does 1 out of every 3 transactions. So yeah, it was a great marriage, and I wish them all the luck.
Yeah, no, I love it, dude. So yeah, I definitely have some follow-up questions there. So, on the culture aspect, as you mentioned, and that's how you get, that 100% and the difference maker that is. But man, that's just become one of these words that gets thrown around. People talk about culture is so important, but a lot of like maybe don't know what that truly means. I mean, I don't even know if I know what it means, right? Like, so I mean, we have our idea, but like when it comes to building a truly amazing culture inside of an organization,
Yeah.
what does that mean? What are advices that you have? What are things that you paid attention to that you found to really move that needle forward?
Yeah. Well, you can tell you have a good culture when you're able to kind of like outsource your anxiety. You're able to, there's obsession within the different divisions. People take things personally when something's not, if someone refunds, like they take it personal, like it becomes part of your company becomes part of their identity as well. And I've had leaders in those positions, and I'm at much more ease when I know someone else is worrying about something, because there's a lot to worry about when you have a company. So that's when you have the good culture. If you've ever been a part of an organization like that, there's a lot of initiative, there's a lot of entrepreneurship, there's a lot of collaboration, there's a lot of problem solving. And that's what we built with our company. And you have to really protect the culture, and you have to protect the momentum of a company and the momentum of the people within the company. Like I would sit down with our leaders and work on their 3-year plan. Like, where do you want to be in 3 years? And let's get you there, and give them the plan to get there. Because you never want someone that's a high performer to think there's nowhere to go. And when we integrated with the Fortune 100 company, it was a culture killer, absolute culture killer, because people could only get a 3.2% raise every 18 months based off these stupid, metrics. And I couldn't sell the dream to the people that worked there anymore. I couldn't compensate people creatively. So, all of the highest performers that have the biggest aspirations went off to other places that didn't have a, ceiling.
Yep. Love it. So then, all right. So when you get, and maybe it's twofold, but when you mentioned, when people are having that obsession and that, when they're taking it personal that somebody refund or a client failed, and just instead of just treating a client just like a commodity, just like a number, so building that type of culture, does that come from, understanding what those core values are, hiring off of those core values? Cause it's like, you got to bring in the right people, and then you got to maintain that culture within. So can you kind of break down with the hiring processes, what that looks like to make sure you're getting those right people within the organization, but then also making sure that takes place ongoing
Yes.
once they're there.
And I did really good in the first phase of this. So initially I hired from my Rolodex. I fully understood the character of the individuals that I was hiring. And then they hired from their Rolodexes, right? Once we started to go out and there wasn't that warm introduction, it got a lot harder to find people that fit that culture. But the people that worked there were always recruiting more people to work there because they had good growth. You want your employees bragging about working there so good people are attracted. So once I was able to build a company up to roughly 40-ish with that, in that fashion, through direct referrals. And you're always hiring, by the way. Even if you're not hiring, you should always be hiring. You're always looking for people. You're always interviewing, because every now and then you meet someone and they can pay for themselves real quick. I sold before I got to the more complex part. Once all of the mid-level management has mid-level management, and the rooms there's too many people to have, your whole company in a meeting. I never made it there. And I would imagine that gets a lot more challenging there. So, but I mean, really, a company with 30 people, you can be making millions and millions. A good company with culture, people enjoy being there, your quality of life is better. There becomes that time where you have to make the leap and rip all of that out and replace all your systems, hire new people, make big investments, and have some tough years. That I got to the edge of that cliff, and I was luckily able to sell before that. But you can get 30, 40 million without having to make that jump.
Yep. Yeah. Is that what led you to wanting to sell? Just because it is like, okay, hey man, like maybe this is gonna, if we want to continue, growing, it's just gonna get to a point where I know I'm not gonna enjoy it. What led to that selling at that point?
Yeah, it's like once you stop knowing who the people that work for you are, it just kind of changes a little bit. And one thing I forgot to say, and I'll answer that question, is, culture is from the top down. So I was first one there, last one to go. I was coming back Monday with stuff that I worked on all weekend. I was in the trenches there. I wanted people to know I was putting the hours in, because they will imitate. Just like Dave Mira, I was riding with him and I'm like, oh wow, he'd do some crazy trick and I'm like, oh, that's possible. Or he'd fall really hard and you just stand up. I'm like, oh wow, that doesn't hurt so bad. So it's top down, and that's, if it's not you, you need to find someone who's charismatic. And then as far as selling, I always built this company to sell it. So any company that you're building should always be positioning it to sell. And it's kind of like you're playing poker. Every now and then you have the opportunity to cash out, and I didn't cash out the first or second time. And I decided to cash out the third time. And the timing couldn't have been better, because we sold right before, all sorts of stuff hit the fan. Yeah, for a very good value. Now they're buying companies at like half of the valuation that I was able to get. So the timing was absolutely perfect. And again, I was, when I sold all my real estate, I was tired of being kind of equity rich and cash poor. I was tired of being financially rich and time poor. And it was just perfect timing. So I was able to cash out, help that company for a little while, just got done with that like yesterday practically. And now I'm moving on to the next thing.
Yep. So you had to stay on, carry the flag for so long after the acquisition.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. And it was nice to have that time as well. It would have been weird just to like not show up the next day, because the people that work there, I cared about. I love them. My brother works there still. So it was part of my identity, my DNA. But whatever business you're building, build it to sell it, or get that person in there that you're going to hand all the responsibility to, like, as soon as possible. if you decide you want to sell your company today, it's going to take you a few years to get the sale. So you got to be ahead of that. And it's going to take you a few years to find someone to take over your company for you. So I've watched a lot of people just paint themselves into a corner, and then they just have to close the company or something like that. Or they're just always working and they convince themselves that, oh, selling wouldn't be good. What am I going to do? Drink pina coladas on the beach? No,
Right.
there's a lot more things to do other than that. By the way,
Yeah.
but no, you want to get to the other side and motivate other people in your company to want to sell. And you can do that through, like, phantom stock was what I used to motivate people, because I didn't want people to have decision-making power. But if I got a sale, I wanted them to benefit from it. And there's all sorts of ways to motivate the people that are working for you. We don't have to, like, release any control.
Yeah. I mean, so go and walk us through that. So, because a lot of our, listeners are, I mean, they're building big real estate organizations, and, common questions that I get is, as far as resistance that they experience is, when they're needing those key leadership personnel, but then it is, well, how do I compensate them to get that extra buy-in, get that, so, and it seems like you did a really good job with that. I mean, can you go a little bit deeper into that in different ways that you did
Yeah.
that? Okay.
Yeah. I've been on both sides of this. You got to get the golden handcuffs on them, right? You have to make it so they are having to walk away from at least $500,000 when they leave your company in potential money, right? Now that can be, and their spouse has to know about it. They have to be planning their retirements around that. That's how you get, like, the full buy-in, because now their whole retirement, their whole life, their legacy is tied on you being successful, your company being successful, which is tied into the day to day. And it makes them move, like, it just puts more pep in their step. It's just it's not manipulative. It's just everyone has a reason to work hard. So we did, with my top leaders, we did profit shares. And we also did phantom stock. And you can do profit shares. And it worked great. My CFO, he had a profit share, so he had a very good reason to keep expenses under wrap, right? Because we had like the minimum. If we didn't maintain at least a 27% margin, it's my lucky number, then he got no profit share, right? So it's like I said, a minimum. So he made sure the company was profitable. And then there was phantom stock there. So what that did is it was a built-in raise for my top people. I don't like sitting down with my top level people and negotiating a raise. It's like, you want a raise, the company's got to make more money.
Yeah.
End of story. Like, that's it. Let's have that conversation. And by the way, when we sell this thing, you're going to do really well. So, profit shares. And that's how I did it from my team. A lot of different ways to do the things depending on the size of your organization.
So then with profit share, was that something that was just done with key leadership personnel, or was that something that went company wide? So, even the janitor could partake.
It was just with the key personnel.
Okay.
I always wanted to have a separate pool available, but the other individuals that worked there, we would work on their 3-year plan and say, okay, you're making 125, you want to be making 175. Let's see what has to happen for you to get there. When you're in a high growth company, you can do those things. Like, you could, because it could actually happen. Now, if it doesn't happen too many years in a row, or if the company doesn't feel like it's ever going to sell, then that phantom stock could feel like the golden handcuffs just get rusty, right? So it's not a one and done. It's constant conversations, tying the success of your company into the person's retirement. And because you don't want them to leave unless you do. And just being open and honest and really authentically trying to get them to that spot, is important.
So with phantom stock, just because for those, including myself, that don't, my assumption is, okay, that is, you're not actually giving stock. Then if they quit, they can take with them. You're not giving them any controlling interest in voting rights, or, it's just, okay, you get billed up to X amount of percentage of the company that you have ownership in upon a successful acquisition.
Yes. Yeah. It only gets exercised if there is a sale of the company, and you can specify all sorts of stipulations like outside of family or over a certain dollar amount. So yes, none of the complications, but they have the assurance that if you sell, there's something in, it's more than a handshake.
Yep. Yep. Love it, man. All right, dude. So okay, you have this very successful exit. And then that, leads you back to, or remaining still in the real estate game, but in a totally different space now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And I'm really excited about this too, because, I made my first million in real estate going down to the courthouse, pulling records of people that were going to lose their house to foreclosure, and then knocking on doors. I would just go knock on the doors. I'd get the records. I'd use MapQuest, and I would go to people's houses and knock on their doors and, work out a deal with them. And at a young age, I would be buying houses from people that were, 50 or 60, and the dinner would be on the table or the stove when I was there. And I always wished I could help those people, but I was broker than they were in a lot of sense. So, the full circle, I made a lot of money. I've realized now that I had a lot of gain based off their losses, kind of like selling Tylenol, right? If that person wasn't in financial trouble, sure, I gave them a good deal. They got money. Sometimes we even set them up in houses, but I wouldn't have won unless they lost. And as a real estate investor, I was able to kind of like justify that and bury that. And I have a million ways to say that's not true. But at the end of the day, I was selling a solution to an illness, a financial illness. So after I sold, I was able to put significant amount of money aside, and I founded a charity that I'm really excited about because it has this amazing ripple effect. So essentially what we're doing, it's called savinghomes.org. Check it out. We spent a lot of time just on the branding of the site. There's a lot to learn there. The brand guide will be available. You can see how to kind of build a brand through some of the material I'm putting out. But what we're focusing on this year is helping single parents save their home from foreclosure. If you're a single parent, you got kids, you probably have a dog, you have a foreclosure on your record, no one's going to rent to you. And the house you're in is probably the most affordable house you're in. So we're a charity in the affordable housing space, but we're focusing first on keeping people in the houses they're already in. So Josh, this is really cool because it's a platform play and it lives on forever. So as a donor, if you donate money to this, a lot of people don't like to give to charities because they're like, oh man, all the money in the charity just goes to administrative expenses. And I want to give all my money to the person. And I get that. And running a charity is running a business. There are expenses you just can't get around. Credit card processing fees, you got 6% off the top just to take a credit card and pay an accountant to do the work. But the cool thing about this is the money helps someone save their house, and it gets recorded as a no payments, zero interest second mortgage. So what happens is in the future, maybe it's in a year, maybe it's in 20 years, and the house sells, the money comes back to the charity, and then the charity can help someone else. And then that process repeats itself over and over and over again. So your $1 could essentially become $10, which is really exciting. And there's a lot of big people, even banks, that really want to give to this charity. And here are two things that are just really awesome. Like I have an Uncle Bob who is probably going to fall into foreclosure at some point. And he's going to call me up and say, hey, Ross, I need 15 grand. If I give my Uncle Bob 15 grand, I can't write that off on my taxes. It can be a gift to him. But if he goes to Saving Homes, I can make a donation to him through Saving Homes, and I can write that $15,000 off in taxes as a family member or a friend trying to help someone. So people can create their own Saving Homes page and share it with their friends and family and with our network. And they can save their home from foreclosure, eventually eviction. And then we'll also have the ability to put people in homes. Like I'm in the process of donating one of my houses into the charity, and other people are doing the same. So here's a fact I learned, Josh. Real estate is the number one way to become a millionaire. I think I said that in the beginning of this, but I learned that real estate is also the number one way out of poverty in America. So I'm trying to help, taking someone from making 200 grand a year to $1 million a year. I've done that a lot of times. I just want to get people good and stable and use some of the really cool, innovative financial tools that are starting to become available to help people. For instance, in the future, Josh, people will be able to sell a piece of their house to lower their payment so they can afford it. Now, that's not a 2023 or 2024 thing, but we're working with companies there because I'd rather own 51% of my house than 0%. So I'm bringing some of the innovation from tech and marketplaces into the nonprofit world. And we have I call it the dream team because, owning your house paid off, that's kind of the American dream. And we have a team of some of the brightest real estate entrepreneurs that are wanting to give back to the industry that has kind of given them so much. So that's savinghomes.org. Check it out. Just throw $5 in and that will probably live longer that will keep giving even long after you're gone.
Yeah, that's so powerful. Yeah. And I don't know if it's because you mentioned earlier that this wasn't a thing of, okay, like exiting from your portfolio before the great financial crisis hit, and then exiting from your tech company before Silicon Valley gets, crushed. But, so I don't know if if it's divine intervention, but like timing seems to be right for you, right? And when you're starting this charity right now, where now with this inflation issue, you've got almost 3 million mortgages right now in default status throughout the United States. 2.8% of all mortgages are in default status. And man, with this just the most expensive time to be alive as a human being, it's just crushing people. And then you got single families, right? Single parent households that, are getting crushed that much more, so timing of this rollout seems to be perfect as well, where people are truly in that need today.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like a GoFundMe to save your home from foreclosure that benefits on all sides. And big donors, people that are donating over 100 grand can do a grant to where they get the money back. So you can put 100 grand in, we can save a lot of homes, and then that money will come back to you. So I'm trying to use a lot of what I learned in the private sector in the nonprofit world. And that nonprofit world, I've sat through the presentations. It's stuffy. It's a beige hotel room, right? So we're bringing the tech and innovation there. There's a lot of great charities out there. Don't get me wrong. And we're hoping to be one of them. So we're officially launching November of this year, 2023, and we're going to save a bunch of houses before Christmas.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So how is it? Because I was reading on your website that you guys go through a in-depth vetting process. Because it's like, okay, hey, if we want to give, we want to make sure it's contributing to the right people, which that's kind of hard because, well, how do you know whose situation's right or wrong? So I'm glad you guys are vetting them and I don't have to, because but then from there, it's, then how's that money allocated to make sure it's going to those right things?
Yeah. So, great question. Well, the company that I sold, Connected Investors, the product it sold was data for real estate investors to find motivated sellers. So I was basically showing and teaching people how to find these individuals and, profit off of that. And that there's a real need for that, but there's also a real need for the other side of things. So I have the ability to find every single parent with 2 kids in a county that's about to lose their home in 2 weeks. Like I have that type of deep data. So we're able to reach out to those individuals. All of this is public record when it comes to the foreclosure data. So people that come to us, we know they're in foreclosure. The money goes directly to the bank. It doesn't go to the individual, which is what we did back when we were doing it for profit. So it's, really we know if they have children and that's our core focus. But at the end of the day, if someone wants to use Saving Homes to have their friends and family pitch in to help them save their house, they can do that as well. So if they're in foreclosure, we have a way to help them one way or another. And the money goes directly to the bank. They don't they don't get to touch the money, which is why I wouldn't want to help my uncle. I feel weird saying this. I wouldn't want to help my Uncle Bob because I give him 15 grand. Maybe he never sends it into the bank.
Yeah.
So it's simple too. And that's what I love about it. It's just a simple mortgage, 0%, no payments. It just sits there until the house sells. Then the money comes back to the charity. So, I get 50 million churning. We can just help a lot of people. And and there's a lot of ways to buy houses as charities as well. And then we can offer them to people that need a more affordable housing, because you're right. Everything is going up and rents just keep going up and away. It's like there's no slowing down the cost of real estate. Gosh, I'm building a house right now. I can't even believe it. So yeah, we're really excited about it, and we need help just spreading the word. We're building our volunteer base right now, and you kind of get to learn how to invest in real estate doing this, because it's like real estate investing, but the profit goes to help the next person rather than a real estate investor. So a lot of good reasons to volunteer. If nothing else, just share it on social.
Yep, love it. So then, a lot of us that are in the real estate side of it, meaning helping representing buyers and sellers, we're starting to see a big uptick of these come back, where we saw a lot during the great financial crisis. But the way that we typically help somebody that is in pre-foreclosure status. And right now we're seeing about 50% of them have enough equity to go out there and sell and get paid. But then we're seeing about 50% of them now having to actually do a short payoff, going through a full short sale. But like when I go out there and I'm working with somebody on my team, or my agents are working with them, step number one is trying to see, okay, is there a way to do it? Like trying to keep the home for them, is there a loan model, or is this something that, can be utilized for that? Like, can they go out there and submit applications and then see if there's ways, I'm just trying to think of the different, obviously, okay, us as listeners, okay, we can invest our money in it and go use it as a charity charity for us to, give to. And, but then is it a tool that we can share that word with clients in need that in I don't know if this is making sense, but
no, it totally is. As a real estate agent, our website has a button for real estate agents and real estate investors, because we're going to need to be working with you one way or another. Real estate agents, some people, they're not going to be able to afford their house. Maybe we stop their foreclosure for them and we're helping them move, as a real estate agent is listing the house to sell. Now we're hoping to work with real estate agents that will do it at the lowest fee possible. This way, as much money can go in the pocket of that single parent as possible. But we're going to need real estate agents, and we're going to need investors, because sometimes the house is just not going to be sellable and someone might have to come in. But I know all of the tricks. So we'll be able to help people navigate selling to real estate investors, and make sure that everyone understands what's really going on. So we'll be able to provide them some guidance there, buy them some time. But yes, we need real estate agents. If you're working with someone that's in foreclosure, yes, going to savinghomes.org is a great step. Nonprofit, the whole nine. We're definitely here to help. I don't know if I answered your question, but I'm excited to work with some of the GSD people, because we got a lot of stuff to get done for sure.
Yep. No, I love it, man. I love it. So then, you're rolling out November 1st. Is this going to be something that initially is, rolled out by territory? Is there certain locations that you're focusing on, or is this going to be kind of US?
This year, so the donations that are coming in now are donations going into the charity, and we're focusing in North Carolina.
Okay.
I say that, however, if someone needs to create a Saving Homes page that they can then share with their family and friends, they can do that in all 50 states instantly. So they can create a Saving Homes page, people can go donate and give to that, and then it's a tax write-off for them, and we help facilitate that. But it's we're opening up other territories very quickly. We just want to get a few dozen houses done in our own backyard as we start to scale out. And we're looking for leaders, by the way, almost franchisee-ish, that want to take our brand into a different market.
Yep. Yep. Love it. So then, you know, earlier you said it's kind of like a GoFundMe for, you know, helping somebody save their home for foreclosure, you know, so let's just say they came up short of, you know, being able to have the funds to do that. You know, does that then go back to the people that gave the money, or does then that go back to helping save another family?
If it's a specific family, that money can go back to the family. And that's a fantastic question. They don't want to help someone else. You know, the money can go back into the hands of the family.
Okay. Yep. Or you can pick and choose of just saying, hey man, like, you know, Ross, like I'm going to donate X amount per, you know, cause I mean, it's very common for, like we've done this for years with like Children's Miracle Network, where it's like, okay, you donate a certain percentage of your commission and it gets, you know, and then the donation even goes in your client's name. So it ends up kind of being a closing gift where it's RESPA compliant. But man, you can, you know, go out there and if you're chipping a little bit out of each deal, it adds up, you know?
Yeah.
You know, so then it's almost like, you know, okay, doing something like this where we're helping, you know, save homes in our communities, you know, by, you know, helping families, but then helping families through the profits that we're making, you know,
Yeah.
where then it's like, hey, I just want this money to go help amazing people, but dude, you go pick who needs the help.
Yeah. Yeah. And a real estate agent made a donation yesterday. They're not worried about a specific person. Now you'll be able to go on the platform and see, hey, there's a single mother of two that needs $400 to save her home. Here's an overview of her hardship. Like you could pick individually, or you can just give give to the platform. But people's names and addresses are not publicized. Right. This is very, very confidential. You can just see high level and you can go in and help people. But yes, if you're a real estate agent and you want to tie this in with anything you're doing and you're not in North Carolina, please still definitely reach out. You know what's great about this too, Josh? Like I've built companies and you know, you got to climb up the ladder there. You're fighting your way up, right? You got to get to know someone really well before they make an introduction. But when you have a nonprofit that's going to help so many people, people like push you up the ladder. Like they make introductions for you. People just love to help. And I see such a big difference in this world. And it's so nice because a lot of people, they're too busy to be giving, right? In their head, I used to do this. I said, once I'm rich, then I'll start giving back. Right. And that was a mistake. I gave back a little bit, but not nearly as much as I could. So now you know, I spent the first 20 years of my life building my fortune. The next 20 years will be helping people keep the fortunes that they've built.
Yep. Yeah. It's kind of like the famous Andrew Carnegie, you know, letter, whereas you know, I'm going to spend the first 40 years of my life making my fortune. Then I'm going to spend the next 40 years giving it all away, you know, right?
Did you say that 40 years?
Yeah.
I'm gonna look that up right now because I turned 40 exactly. So
yeah,
I am huge. Think and Grow Rich is my number one. That was the first book I read at Barnes and Noble was Think and Grow Rich, which got me to find real estate.
Yep. Yep. No, yeah. I'm actually rereading it right now.
Yeah.
I've read it many times, but about once a year, I go through like Think and Grow Rich, always How to Win Friends, Influence People. There's a few of them. Man, have you read Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill?
Yes. Hold on. I listened to the audio because it's dramatized.
Yep.
So it will get your heart going. But about 3 months ago, my wife came home from a record store and she found like an original Think and Grow Rich record.
Okay.
So I have like an Earl Nightingale reading Think and Grow Rich. But a great book to revisit for sure.
Yep. Love it, man. So then, okay, a moment ago, you mentioned that, you know, you're looking for almost franchisees, you know, so, I mean, and I don't know if it, you know, franchisees are different chapter, you know, like, what does that look like? Okay, let's just say I wanted to, you know, because I think that this could be a great opportunity with partnerships of, it's like, look, just like, hey man, you made your money selling real estate, you know, through the investment side, you know, a lot of those watching, listening our podcast, you know, make their money off of, you know, helping their clients, but we're all making money doing this thing, you know, and through helping people through home ownership, through our communities. I think for the real estate community, like it'd be really powerful then to also be able to have a give back to help. Like we're making our money selling homes.
Yes.
You know, right. Let's help then within our community, people keep their homes. So like, okay, if I was like, man, I want to like do something with what you're doing here, but big here in my market in Phoenix.
Yeah.
like what does that kind of look like?
So the vision that I have is we have representatives, whatever you want to call them yet, in each state, maybe a few in California, that have all made like they're sitting on at least 50 million. Like they are just very, very wealthy to kind of build this think tank of people that are coming together to solve affordable housing. And they are kind of the leader in that area. They're someone of massive influence that other people want to be around. And they are now kind of giving back. And they're running the fundraising and allocation side of it. So I've started to assemble that group of individuals. I'm trying to put $1 billion together on like a collective net worth of the first handful of people being $1 billion to kind of sit on the top. So there's all sorts of ways to work together, but I don't have it fully baked. I don't have it fully baked right now. We have people that want to work for us in these different areas. And just drop a contact form on Saving Homes. It says join the dream team. Let us know how you can contribute. And I would be honored and love to be able to get some of your time, energy, and effort in this, because it's going to be the people we already have lined up. I mean, everything they've done is hundreds of millions. So I want this thing to help a lot of people. It's how I'm like, I used to grade myself on money. Now I'm just grading myself on impact.
Yeah.
And how many homes did I save? How many, and we're focusing on single parents because, I mean, they leave, their kids have to change school districts. I have kids I couldn't even imagine. Like, it's just they lose their best friend. It's just a ripple effect. And they lose their asset they were probably going to inherit. The stability is gone. It's just the last piece of the family that just goes away. So I'm working really hard on the single parent aspect to start, but this thing has legs. And again, it just keeps running. That's why I'm like, let's go. Let's raise some money, and it will just keep churning and helping and helping and helping and helping. It has that echo effect. Josh, I call them donation babies. Your donations go out and have babies, and they make more donations. And they make more donations. So
yeah, no, I love it. Powerful stuff, man. It's exciting, dude. It's awesome seeing, dude. So, all right, and everybody that's watching and listening, I'll have the link below so you guys can, make it easy on you. But a lot of you are driving as you're listening to these. So savinghomes.org, savinghomes.org. Definitely go check it out. All right. So last question for you, Ross. If Ross today, knowing everything you know now through this, 20 years or so of your entrepreneurship journey, this crazy ride that you've been on, if you could go back and sit down with yourself, your 20-year earlier self, you're on a park bench, knowing everything you know now, and you could give yourself a couple pieces of advice that you feel would have just massively fast forwarded the success trajectory that you're on, what would those pieces of advice look like?
that is an awesome question. And we talked about Think and Grow Rich. One of the principles that's never really talked about is creating your like mental mastermind, where you essentially just meditate and envision these individuals in rooms with you, and you're having these conversations. And I've had my older self has been in my mastermind, my mental mastermind, for a long time. But after selling, my younger self started showing up. Right. And it's anyway. And actually, there's a really cool, before I answer the question, you can actually create your own mastermind using ChatGPT. You can just ask this group of your people and it answers as if they're that person. Anyway,
Really?
That's another conversation. There's been some tactical mistakes I made. With connected investors, I messed up SEO so bad, and it caused so much heartache. We just kept messing it up, and other competitors were very good at it, and they were able to get a lot of traction and keep free traffic. So tactically, I messed up SEO. I would, being an entrepreneur, I believe my advice would be more on the personal side, and just making sure to maintain personal relationships, because I was always just kind of all or nothing. And after the go make money noise in your head silences and you think what really matters, it's always like real, authentic relationships. I kind of always overlooked that. And I have long-term best friends and stuff like that, but you know, that's something that I didn't put enough energy into at a young age. So just authentic, real relationships with people, not based off money or what they can do for you. And just emotional intelligence in general is, I think, really important for an entrepreneur who might operate with like a more stoicism style, mentality. Your close relationships are really important. So I don't know if that's what you were looking for, but as I've had time to reflect, that's been some of the things I've reflected on. I've been very lucky with my timing, as you pointed out. So I wouldn't really change anything. No, it's worked out. It's worked out well so far.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, I love it, man. I
Yeah.
love it. So then, all right. So how much, and I lied. I know I said one last question, but I got to follow up on
Keep it coming.
the mastermind. So then, I mean, how much time a day is it a daily practice where you spend, 20 minutes in the mastermind, or is it?
Oh, no. Well, before this call, I was in a real mastermind. I
Yep.
still, I want to stay sharp, and don't want to go dull, but it's, yeah, I don't know, it kind of sounds maybe a little flaky, but I would kind of use like the full moon cycle as anytime there's a full moon, it's a reminder that I need to do some deep journaling and just reflect. And that's really just so monthly, but just, it was just fun to tie it into astrology a little bit. Like yesterday was the super blue moon, right? It has all sorts of cool meanings you can dive into. But yeah, just month, and sometimes more, sometimes a lot, if I was really struggling with a problem. But when you do the mental mastermind, you have to study up on the people. You have to really like, you pretend that, you know, Napoleon Hill and Alan Watts are having a conversation, right? Like there's not just you in the mess, there's other people in there as well. So it's a fun thought exercise. I read everyone's like biography before, they were in my group. So it's a really fun thought experiment that helps you get out of your own way because you know the answers to your biggest challenges. You've just bought into the excuses, hook, line, and sinker. So sometimes you need a different version of yourself to tell you what to do. One of the questions I like to ask myself is, let's say I had a goal, right? I would do anything to achieve this goal. Just don't ask me to. And then I try to fill in the blank. Nothing unethical, right? Maybe it's like, just don't ask me to do social media posts every day, or don't ask me to get on podcast or something like that. It's fun to see what I am completely unwilling to do to hit my goal. And then you look at the thing and you're like, it's pathetic. You're going to not get that goal because you're not going to do that thing. So you figure it out. Sometimes you have to do it. Sometimes other people have to do it. But anyway, those are some of those questions I asked just to find the roadblocks that you don't even realize are there.
Yeah, such powerful stuff. And Ross, man, we know how busy you are, and the fact that you took time out of your busy day and away from your family to be here with us, man. This has been amazing. We truly appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, on my desk right here, I created this when I started doing podcasts. It's a personal and financial kind of transformation workbook.
Okay.
And it takes all of the lessons. You fill this thing out and it helps you with your daily journaling, 10 minutes every day. You follow this, you're going to set up your whole life. It helps you with meditation, helps you write goals, helps you reverse engineer your whole life. Habits are really the most important thing. Anything is easy, but to have the habits to do them, that's the hard part. So I just give this thing away. However you want me to give this to people, link in the show notes or whatever. It's just a PDF, download it, go through it. no matter how much of a high performer you are going to learn something from here. Because I had some of the biggest people out there review this and go through it and give me insights to it. So when I was reevaluating my whole life after I sold, it wasn't retirement, it was rewirement. Yeah. I rewired all my priorities. I needed a process to do that. And I used a lot of the prompts in this PDF. So yeah, I'll give you a link. You can just hand it out.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. We appreciate that. So anybody that's watching or listening to this, if you scroll right below, we'll have a link to savinghomes.org for you to check out, as well as the workbook. I couldn't see the name of it again. Was it strategic?
Yeah, it's just a personal and financial transformation document.
Okay, perfect.
You know.
So we'll just have the PDF below where you and I, there'll be no, well, I don't know if Ross has an opt-in for it, but I will.
Yeah, I don't have a business anymore. Yeah.
Yep. So
I don't want your email address. I don't want your phone number. I just want you to be successful, make money, and give to the charity. So,
Yep. Awesome stuff.
Hopefully it works.
Hell yeah. All right. Well, thank you again, Ross. And those watching, listening, as always, we truly appreciate you being here. Keep crushing, keep kicking ass, and we'll see you next time. Peace.